To err, they say, is human. To forgive, according to Formula One, is to be punished. This is better said by Red Bull's Max Verstappen. F1 is more about penalties than racing. The popularity of the prestigious racing competition is aided not just by the sports, but by various controversies every season. And these controversies are often met with punishment, from spying to cheating, to name a few. F1 has never been short of dramas from teams and drivers who are trying to undermine their opponents in order to win. This and more are why the FIA dish out punishment, including the biggest fine in the history of sports. Yeah, you heard that right. Formula One has the highest fine given in sports history. These are our top picks for the biggest punishment in Formula One history. Before we begin, just hit that subscribe button if you love F1. Alright then, let's begin. Starting off our list today is the punishment served to one of the greatest F1 drivers of all time, Magic Senna. Number 7. Ayrton Senna's fine and 6 months ban. In the penultimate race of the 1989 season at Japan Grand Prix, McLaren teammates Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost were both leading in the race after 46 laps, but Senna had to overtake the Frenchman if he was to retain his world title. And as he made his way to overtake, the two drivers collided with Prost, who was turning into the corner, drove into Siena, resulting in the collision. Prost retired thinking the race was over, but Senna got the marshal's help to push his dent car to the track. And as they did, Senna bump-started his engine and drove through the chicane before rejoining the race and was consequently disqualified for receiving a push start, cutting the chicane, and also for crossing into the pit lane entry, which was not part of the track. McLaren, however, attempted to appeal the disqualification, citing that Senna didn't gain any competitive advantage from missing the chicane. But at the FISA hearing later in the week, Senna's disqualification was not only sustained, but he was also fined $100,000 and banned for 6 months. Number 6. Bar fuel tank. Following a series of disappointing results in the seasons before the 2005 San Marino Grand Prix, the Bar Honda team finally made a comeback when their driver Jenson Button made the podium with a third-place finish. His teammate Takuma Sato finished 5th, and the team finished runner-up to Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. But their joy was soon short-lived after the FIA found Button's car to be 4.99 kilograms underweight because they installed another fuel tank, which could store over 11 grams of extra fuel, and when it drained, the car becomes underweight. Bar team was then disqualified from the San Marino Grand Prix and banned from the following 2 races in Spain and Morocco, respectively. They were also given a 6-month ban and suspension for a year. All this was after a hearing at the International Court of Appeal. They eventually finished 6th in the constructor standing. Number 5. Racing Point using Mercedes design. This is a more recent punishment. In 2020, Renault protested that the Racing Point car was all too similar to the 2019 title-winning Mercedes car. They claimed that the front and rear brake ducts were the same as the Mercedes car. The FIA investigated the claims after the first protest at the Styrian Grand Prix and found Racing Point guilty because they disobeyed their rules that state the teams must design specific parts of the cars themselves. They went ahead to deduct 15 points and fine Racing Point €400,000, but the points deduction was from the team's standing, not the driver. Imagine being fined for not participating in a race you were banned from. That's exactly what the FIA did for the next punishment on the list. Number 4. Tyrell season disqualification. In the 1984 season, only the Tyrell team wasn't using turbo power. They were using a naturally aspirated engine, but in order to have an edge over other cars, they decided to use a special device to spray water on the engine inlets to improve power, but they were also using lead shots to balance the weight of the car in order to meet the standard weight, which was illegal. FIA investigated the racing team and found them guilty of using illegal fuel lines, illegally fitted ballasts, and later, disobeying their aerodynamic regulations. They were subsequently banned for the next 3 races and were disqualified from all the races they had participated in earlier in the season. Tyrell was also fined by FISA for their inability to appear in the races they were banned from participating in. Number 3. Ferrari team orders. In the 2002 Austrian Grand Prix, Brazilian racer Rubens Barrichello was on course to have his first win in a Grand Prix since the 2000 season, but he was ordered to slow down to allow his teammate Michael Schumacher to take the win. Michael Schumacher had already won 4 out of the first 5 races of the 2002 season, but Ferrari team principal Jean Todt told Rubens Barrichello to slow down and allow the German to win the race. He was initially insistent, but he had to comply after he was threatened to be sacked. The action was so noticeable that the crowd booed Ferrari drivers as they made their way to the podium. So, in an effort to salvage the situation, Michael Schumacher urged Rubens Barrichello to climb the race winner stand. Michael Schumacher's actions, however, broke the podium protocol, and the FIA consequently fined Ferrari $1 million. More so, the actions of the Ferrari team principal made the FIA ban team orders for the next season. Number 2. Renault Crashgate. The Crashgate was a result of race fixing by Renault's team principal Flavio Briatore and chief technical officer Pat Simons. They both planned with Renault's driver Nelson Piquet Jr. to intentionally crash his car onto a barrier during the race in order to orchestrate a situation where they could bring out a safety car that would assist Fernando Alonso, a Renault driver at the time, to win the race. The incident was cheating at its best, and as such, the FIA banned Briatore, and Simons was banned for 5 years. Both punishments were later rescinded after both of them appealed the punishment and were duly compensated. And now to the biggest fine ever in sports history. Number 1. McLaren Spygate fine. As an F1 fan, you definitely would remember the infamous Spygate. The controversy started when Ferrari's chief mechanic, Nigel Stepney, allegedly printed over 780 pages of Ferrari documentation, which contained information about their car design and performance, and gave it to McLaren engineer Mike Coughlin in a bid to sabotage Ferrari. The matter got out of hand when Hamilton and Fernando got into a heated argument at the 200 Hungarian Grand Prix, which got Fernando punished. In a state of rage, he threatened to let everyone know that McLaren employees were obtaining confidential information from other teams. The threat made FIA investigate the matter, and they found McLaren guilty and punished them with a $100 million fine, which as of today remains the biggest in sports history.